I hope you do get a score, I hope you do get a try. Let's try and catch Tommy. Tommy Seymour scored 7 tries in his last 8 games for Scotland, which is an incredible record. So let's hope that, well, he gets another one. Let's hope Tim, you get another one as well to catch up to. One more before we go to the wonderful questions that have come in. Some not so wonderful, but that's a risk you take, isn't it? I'll come back to you, Mark, just before we go to some of these. I suppose looking at the French in some ways in the England-Wales game today, it must be really difficult for all teams to compete at a professional level with some of the finances, some of the stars on show, you know, in order to make our professional teams really successful and the national team successful. Will you be worried about some French scouts looking at some of the players tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, we get phone calls all the time from French clubs trying to prize our players away. The problem we have is that there's so much money going into the French and the English games at the moment, with the TV money that's come in both of those countries through top 14, that it's making their salary cap so much higher than the salary that we are able to pay both in Scotland. But for the first time, the Irish are feeling this as well as the Welsh. They've lost Ian Madigan to Bodo Beglers, and they've lost a few other players that would never normally lose. We've got to work really, really hard to make sure we can keep all our best talent in Scotland. All our best young talent we've actually secured now. They're all staying with us for another 2 years. But the problem that Chris alludes to is very much there. There's almost 2 countries pulling away from the rest of us in Europe at the moment, largely through the amount of money that's available now. And I was talking to Peter Kenyon, if you remember him, he was a chief executive of Manchester United in Chelsea, and he was saying to me that rugby is now at the point that the real money came into football. That first contract, when people changed the way sportsmen are paid and remunerated, and the role of the agent is now getting very much more strong in rugby. And we've got to work very, very hard to make sure people want to play here. We have to look after our players, which I think we do better than almost everywhere in the world in terms of resting and recuperation and medical care. But it's only understandable that guys, we've got 2 guys here that have moved on to Queen's and to Gloucester. It's a short life being a professional player, and you have to earn money when it's in front of you. So we understand why it happens, but the challenge for us is to make sure that we keep producing players through the new academies we've brought in. And young kids here at the front today, we want you to come through and play rugby and come through our academies and represent the country. It's so important that we grow as many of our own players as we possibly can.
Absolutely. I think as well, no matter who plays or where you play, when the Scotland team come together, there's that special bond, and you've seen it already through the World Cup and the early games in the Six Nations, and you'll see it against Norway, which is one thing I'm really looking forward to. Right, we'll take some of your questions here. This is from Richard Hunter. Greg, what will be the one deciding factor in tomorrow's match? What do you think will be a key element? Will there be one thing that goes one way or the other that you have to get right that will be the difference coming out of the match tomorrow?
Well, to put one thing down is quite difficult, but probably what's been mentioned is the physicality. And I know, Ben obviously he knows a few people from his time in France, and they've talked about their physicality and the way they want to sort of slow us down. So if we need to be physical tomorrow, we need to match that and better it in areas, and we need to go arms and legs. We've talked about that this week. When we're playing at home, we need to sort of become a different animal. We're upset with how we sort of faded away in that England game. So we've got a real emphasis tomorrow, because we're playing at home. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, cracking. This one from Callum Crocker, who's aged 8, and I'll ask you, Vern, what was your favourite game in the 2015 Rugby World Cup? A fair idea what your least favourite one is.
Look, I think the game that we started with was against Japan was a game that was full of tension, stress, because they'd just beaten South Africa 3 days before, and it was a big moment for us. We'd been training 2.5 months, and to finally get started and go through a particularly difficult first half and still believe in what we were doing, and then be able to put them away in the last 30 minutes of the game. I thought that was really pleasing. I was really pleased with the players. They stuck to their guns, they were determined, and we kicked the World Cup off with a win, and I thought that then helped us move forward with confidence for the rest of it. Now my worst one
Good. Tim, how long does it take? This is an interesting question. How long does it take to recover after a game?
Well, I think it probably differs per position. I'm obviously the type of player that tends to run a little bit more than some of the forwards, and they tend to have a lot more physicality in their game. So I guess it depends on what you see as recovery. But for instance, for myself, if we play on a Saturday, we'll do some recovery on Sunday morning in the pool just to flush out all the stiffness out of the legs, and then we'll do something similar again on Monday. And then you normally start training in the afternoon, but you probably don't quite feel right yet, so it probably takes till the middle of the week to kind of recover from that. But then you're obviously training again, so that catches up with you. So you probably don't feel completely fresh again until the day before the game, I'd say, normally, and then you're playing the game again. But it's obviously a bit easier for myself because it's more sort of, the legs and that sort of stuff. I can only imagine what some of the front row forward would feel like after hitting sort of 10 scrums in a game and then having to recover. But yeah, it normally takes quite a while.
So knock-on effect in your preparation for the next game as well. And that's why it's so important that Six Nations now is break weekends or 2 weeks on, 1 week off game, just to give the